Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
This is a bunch of bullshit.
Welcome back to the Tiddy and Shiner Show. My name is Big Tiddy, and god dang it, I'm tired for a Wednesday.
And my name is Shiner, and that's all I got.
It's been a worn out day, hasn't it, homie?
Man, I tell you what, it's been a long one.
But productive things were done. I was very productive today. I got work done for work, and I got some work done for Outcast Media Group, and just trying to do exactly as I do every single day that I can, and that'd be do epic shit.
Yeah, man, that's 3 words that I say to myself every day as I'm dragging my bones out of it's time to do epic shit.
Yeah.
So, we brought that up on the closing episode of season 2. We kind of touched on this at the end of it, and we actually received a lot of DMs from people that really kind of liked what we were saying about that. So instead of tonight getting really polarized with some political views and common sense, I think we should just take it and run with it, and let's get deeper into doing epic shit, man.
We are, and we're going to start off by pretty much telling you our path to success as it is right now. Now, don't get me wrong. We expect a whole lot more to happen because we continue to do epic shit. But we'll give you a little start into how we formed and how we've gotten to the place where we're at now. I actually started with a podcast with another gentleman a couple of years ago and started learning the podcast business. And when I say business, how to edit, how to do sound really well, programs to use. Started figuring out that every single microphone that's ever been made is completely different, and there are some better than others. And I've pretty much seemed to have bought them all before I found a good one. Well, and Shiner same way, I hooked Shiner up with a Shure 58 for him to start with a Shure 58. A Shure 58 is a fantastic microphone. Most stage performers use.
Right.
It's a great microphone, but it just wasn't perfect. Shiner has a little bit of an inflection in his voice that when the deeper tones are heard, his voice projects so much more. So
right.
We got him connected up with a Rode Podcaster, and that one connects direct USB straight into his computer. One thing I figured out when I started podcasting with Zach was the audience. We used to do some live along with the podcast, which would broadcast on Facebook, and for the most part, it worked out pretty well. Although with the type of podcast that we were doing, it was pretty vile. It was somewhat funny.
It was real funny. It was just real vile.
Yeah. Looking back on it now, maybe it was an immature phase for me. I don't know. I'm not busting on the podcast at all.
No.
I learned how to do a lot of stuff from Zach, and I'm very appreciative. But it got to a point to where we crossed up on ideals.
Creative differences.
Yeah, even bands go through that. But what Shiner and I were looking for, and by the way, we'd brought Shiner in as a third on that podcast. And Shiner was with us for, about 6 months?
Something like that, yeah, in that neighborhood.
About 6 months before Shiner and I decided to move on. And it wasn't that we wanted to move on. We just wanted to move forward without being so vile, because we had opportunities for things, sponsorship. Even back then, we were in the infancy ideas of 420 Eats, and because of how vile our podcast was, the restaurant that was interested, it was no longer interested. And that restaurant is not only one restaurant, it's a restaurant group of 9 restaurants. So there went a huge opportunity because of the language, and we just couldn't let that go anymore. How are we going to make money if we are that vile? Because you limit your audience. And that's a thing about success. If anybody out there wants to do a podcast, okay, well, do epic shit. Do it right. And you can do a podcast on anything you want. If you're a gamer, a gaming podcast. You can do game reviews. If you are into fantasy football, there are some fantastic podcasts out there for fantasy football. And there's always room for one more. Whatever you want to do, obviously do it epic. And Shiner and I were not able to do epic the way it was going.
Not our version of epic.
No, because we want to make money. If you use the C word, the see you next Tuesday word, 30 or 40 times in your podcast, along with 300 or 400 F-bombs and middle fingers at people just because, it kind of makes it a little hard to get sponsorship. So we sat down, Shiner and I, and said, this is what we want to do. And we wanted Zach to be on board with it. We actually did. Zach's a great podcaster. He's really good at what he does, but he likes it vile, and that's in his lane. And
which is fine.
Yeah, he didn't want to go where we wanted to go, so we parted ways. Taking us to the beginning of our podcast, we almost felt like we needed a third because things felt just a little empty on one side, and I think it was just a crutch. I don't know, Shiner. Was that maybe just a crutch for us?
I think so. Looking back, I would agree with that statement. Looking back,
if we ran out of something to say, Zach was always right there to jump in. Sometimes he would jump in and you weren't finished with what you were saying, and that was okay. That's his podcast. But for you and I, we kind of figured out a groove to be in, because you and I in normal conversation talk a lot like we talk on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
don't think we differ that much in our day-to-day conversations.
When we do a podcast, this is normal conversation. And it's normal conversation for us. There's a lot of times, and to tell you about success and how you want to bottle that up and save it is, I'll be driving down the road talking to Shiner for a half hour, and we'll be talking about something, and we're like, God, I wish I'd have saved that for the podcast. And I guess I can carry around a recorder, but the audio is going to kind of suck, when we're talking on phones. So it's much better being exactly where we're at. But I think once we got dialed in on just the two of us and we were comfortable, that's kind of when Donnie came along.
That's about how that worked out.
Yeah. And, as you grow and get bigger, excuse me, you have to add personnel to help you. You got to realize at some point in your success, you cannot do it all alone. You can do it alone up to a certain point, and once you grow enough, there's not enough man hours in the day for you to continue that by yourself, and that's where you got to get somebody else to help you. Shiner deals with a lot of direct marketing with clients for both the podcast and for 420 Eats and for Outcast Media. And I, because of my full-time job during the day, have kind of become mostly the money backer on the podcast. I don't put in as many hours as Shiner does. I don't have that many hours to put into it. Shiner has the unfortunate luck of a disability that he turned into something good, and that would be his asthma. His asthma is the worst I've ever seen on any human being in my life. And basically, he had to retire from the real world work. He does live in somewhat of a bubble, and he has to be able to live and survive and breathe. Now, he does get out hunting every while and that kind of stuff, but he has to make sure that he's medicated the hell up to be able to do it. But getting to the point, because he has that time at home, he's able to put in a ton of sweat equity into it. And it's so much appreciated for me because I don't have enough hours to be able to do that. I've got a family to support, and right now, Shiner's just Shiner. Shiner does Shiner's thing. The only thing he needs is banana pancakes and some Hot Pockets, and he's good to go. For me, it's a little bit different, but I wish I could live as simple as he does, honestly. I really do. How much debt do you have, Shiner?
Besides medical bills, none.
In a house?
Yeah, I mean, I got a home and medical bills. So that's pretty much my debt.
Yeah. Any credit cards?
I don't believe in credit cards, bud.
And I believe too much in them.
See, that's how I'd be. So I just know not to start that fire.
Yeah. Well, I have I'm not kidding. I have 2.5 ounces of credit cards. So, no shit. Wait a minute. Got a bunch. Which means I got a bunch of bills, and it's a bunch of bills I got to pay. And since we're not making $1 million yet on this venture, I've got to work. At some point in the future, that curve is going to change, and I'm no longer going to be able to work in my regular job to be able to make the kind of money with doing our own epic shit. So at some point in the future, that will happen.
Yeah,
it will. We just, I have to be careful in choosing my moments. It's one thing to get off your ass when you have an idea and go and make it happen. It's another thing to jump in, especially with what Shiner and I do, and me completely quit my job and go into making big money at it, because this comes very slowly in the broadcasting. But now it's very different if you have a product. If you have we have a listener that had said, he's a good cook, makes good sauces, makes a great barbecue sauce, makes damn good salsa. And one day, Shiner was just like, quit talking about it.
Get it done.
Go do epic shit. Well, guess what? Shit's getting epic for him. He's producing it. Well, that's a different story, because if you're going to run that business by yourself for a little while, you're not going to have enough hours of the day to work a regular job and then come do that. On that, you've got to have faith that your product is definitely going to sell, and you're going to have to continue to make more and more and more of it. And you don't have enough hours in the day to do it by working somewhere else. That's completely different, because that money, I'm not saying that money comes very quick, but it comes more rapidly than it does in a broadcasting business, where viewership or listenership is basically how you get paid. The numbers that listen to us and the numbers that watch us, as that grows, the more money we make. It's just like a commercial. It's why when you go to your local television station and you make a commercial to sell your barbecue sauce for 30 seconds, well, that commercial might cost you $600 to run for one spot. Well, because you've got a reach of about 100,000 people, right? Now, take that same commercial and stick it on the Super Bowl, where your reach is 300 million people, and that becomes extensively a whole lot more money. That's based on viewership and listenership. Same thing with us. The more people that we have that like our stuff and follow us and listen to us and comment back, the more we can show potential advertisers, potential clients, this is how many people watch us, and that's why it's going to cost you. Don't want to get too far into that part, because I really want everybody to just kind of listen to the do epic shit part when it comes to their ideas. We told you where we're at with our podcast, where we're going. We have the 420 Eats. If you're a listener and you've already gone on to YouTube and went to our 420 Eats channel and watched the episode, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate it. We had fun doing it, and we're going to continue to do it. And that's about where we are at this point. Now, we have pulled on another potential sponsor for 420 Eats, which we will also cross-promote on the podcast. And I hope we get some things worked out, because it's pretty exciting. With Oklahoma being a medical marijuana state, this product is going to fit right in. And nobody here has really ever heard of that product, unless you're just really into being a state.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.